I love this idea of taking the vivid vision, not only as a 4 or 5 page document, which you're going to email to your customers, your suppliers, your employees, potential employees, you're going to put it on your website. You start sharing the future of where you're going. You don't share your plans of how you're going to get there. But when everyone can see where you're going, they want to join you. They want to invest in you. The vivid vision becomes like a magnetic force. It pulls people towards your brand. It's how you attract employees to come and work for you. It's how you keep your current employees excited because they see what you're building over the next 3 years. Like when I think of a business, I think of a jigsaw puzzle. I think of building the business very similar to how you would build a jigsaw puzzle. So what's the most important part of a jigsaw puzzle when you're starting? Seeing the photo, right? So like, what are we building? What are we doing? So I just got a jigsaw puzzle sent to me the other day and I'm going to try it, but it's 1,000 pieces and they're all red. Like what the f? So it's so much easier when you have a jigsaw puzzle like this because you can see where some of the pieces go. Like I can see where the Thames go. I can see the red flowers. I can see kind of Big Ben, right? I can see, so you know where some of the pieces go. So where we all starting a jigsaw puzzle is we start with the corners and then we go with the sides and then we build in all the colorful pieces in the middle. So I see all of our businesses the same way. So for me, the starting point of a business is that vivid vision, right? It's really the picture of what we're building. Now, I was exposed to this concept 22 years ago by an Olympic coach. And he didn't talk about a vivid vision like I talk about today. He talked about visualization, and he wanted us to look into a crystal ball. And when he was talking about this, we thought it was the cheesiest, stupidest thing we'd ever heard, because looking into a crystal ball, we were all like these left-brain entrepreneurs. We wanted to understand something more tactical. So he talked about how athletes used visualization. And he talked about how high-performance Olympic athletes would actually visualize themselves performing the event. And they would close their eyes and they would go through their event hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in their mind. Gymnasts would actually close their eyes and do their routine on the floor. Or skiers would close their eyes and ski the entire downhill, and they could literally ski the entire course in their mind. Or how they would literally visualize themselves performing certain parts of their event. So when they were doing it, it happened completely on instinct. I had a tennis coach when we were younger, 13 years old, who made us practice hitting our tennis serves with the lights out in the actual courts. It was as black as night. You could see nothing. And we had tennis ball tins in the corner, and you had to hit serves until you could knock over the tennis ball serves. So it was completely acting in visualization to know exactly where the ball and the motion was going. So that we understood. We understood how athletes did it. We didn't understand how to take visualization into the business world. So I then thought later, a couple of years later, about what was a business that used visualization successfully, and it was home builders, right? Anyone who's ever built a home or done a renovation of a home, the homeowner is really the CEO of that project, right? The homeowner is the one who decides what we want to build, and the contractor makes the plans to make that vision come true. So the homeowner and the contractor sit down multiple times, and the homeowner draws sketches and pulls pictures out and explains the home and shows them until the contractor goes, yeah, I get it, I see it. And the contractor goes away and comes back a couple of weeks later with blueprints and plans, and they go back and forth a couple more times. He goes back and he comes back with the final plans. The homeowner signs off on the plans, the contractor signs off on the vision, and now we have a vision and the plans to make it come true. And then the contractor gives the blueprints to the employees, and the construction workers build the home without ever having to speak to the homeowner. For me, that was really powerful when we were doing a home build in Vancouver, was realizing that none of my contractors' employees had ever spoken to me about what they were building, and yet they built exactly what I wanted. In the business world, the reason why your employees aren't doing what the CEO wants is the CEO is not explaining in enough clarity what we're building, so the workers are then trying their best. But it's the CEO's job to clarify what we're building. So what I like to do is have the CEO get out of the box and go somewhere where they're inspired, somewhere around nature, where they can allow their mind to drift a little bit. And what I want them to do is to pretend that they're traveling in a time machine, almost like the CEO is going to hop into a time machine and they're going to travel out to December 31st, 2023, and they're going to start describing every aspect of their business, almost like they're going to start doing a mind map. I want them to describe operations. I want them to describe IT. I want them to describe marketing and customer service and sales. I want them to describe the leadership team and the management meetings and what the customers are saying about you and what the employees are writing about you. I want them to describe your physical office space and how we work remotely. And and not describing how the business happened. Like, I don't know how they built my house, right? Nor do I care how they built my house. I just described what it looked like. I don't care how you build my company as long as you're clear on what we're building. If you're clear on what we're building, then you can create the plans to make that come true. In fact, when I was getting ready to launch my course, my girlfriend Ashley kept talking about, oh, and you'll have this community and you'll have these programs and they'll have access to you. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm building. She's like, no, but that's what these courses are. I'm like, that's not what I'm building. The problem was that I got her excited about helping me with a course before she knew the vision of what I wanted my course to look like and act like. Now that she's clear on what it is, all of her ideas are lined up with what I'm building. She was super smart, but she wasn't clear on what I wanted to build, right? Now that she knows what I want to build, then it's easy to make those decisions in alignment with that. So the CEO's job is to start getting a bunch of rough ideas down. I use a mind map to start. And then after the mind map, they actually get all their rough ideas organized by paragraph or by bullet points until they can write a first draft. So in 2009, I gave this kind of session to a group of CEOs, and Sebastian Tandur, a CEO from Geneva, Switzerland, had a meeting and planning company. He was doing $110 million in revenue. And Sebastian decided that 3 years later, 2012, he wanted MCI Global to be doing $500 million in revenue. So from 110 to 500 million in 3 years. So he described his company and what it would look like and the countries it was operating in and the acquisitions and how the acquisitions were all working together and described it in vivid detail. And then he got a copywriter to polish it and make it pop off the page. And then he rolled this vivid vision out to all of his different offices in multiple languages. He got it translated into 4 or 5 different languages. But now all of these employees in all of these countries could see what this 36-year-old CEO could see his company looking like. He didn't hit 500 million, he hit 512. 3 years later, he went from 110 million to 512 million. He then rolled out his 2015 vivid vision for his company as $1 billion company, which he did miss. He hit 800. But in 6 years, he went from 110 million to about $800 million in revenue. It was pretty amazing to watch this come true. When the vivid vision is written, it becomes a 4 or 5 page written document that has your design elements on it. It feels like your brand. And it actually contains exactly what your company looks like, acts like, and feels like in the future. So when people read through it, they actually can see exactly what the CEO can see. I've seen companies take their vivid vision and actually draft it and put it up on the wall. The only thing that's wrong with this one here is this date is wrong. I like putting up December 31st, 2017 to make it feel like a little more tension, right? This feels like you got one more year to make it come true. It's just an NLP thing for me. But I love this idea of taking the vivid vision, not only as a 4 or 5 page document, which you're going to email to your customers, your suppliers, your employees, potential employees. You're going to put it on your website. You start sharing the future of where you're going. You don't share your plans of how you're going to get there. But when everyone can see where you're going, they want to join you. They want to invest in you. They want to buy your stock. The only reason why like Tesla is doing so well or SpaceX is doing so well is Elon rolls out this vision that's so big that everyone's excited. He doesn't say how he's going to make it happen, but we're all clear on where they're going. And the vivid vision becomes like a magnetic force. It pulls people towards your brand. It's how you attract employees to come and work for you. It's how you keep your current employees excited because they see what you're building over the next 3 years. It's like the old story of the bricklayers or the brick makers. There were these 3 bricklayers 100 years ago in Barcelona. They're sitting out in the dirt and they're making bricks. They asked the first guy, what are you doing? He said, I'm making bricks. They asked the second guy, what are you doing? He said, we're building a wall. I'm building bricks to build this wall. And they asked the third guy, what are you building? He said, we're building this church that Gaudi has designed called the Sagrada Familia. And I'm getting to build the bricks to build the left wall of this incredible cathedral that we're going to be building for the next 120 years. And yet they were excited to work on this project because they could see what they were building. And that's the power of the vivid vision. When I walked into your company, like it's fine, but it already is. So there's nothing exciting yet because I can only see what I can see. But if you explain where you're going, if you can explain what it looks like, then it's exciting, right? Redirect Health, like when you guys get ready to roll out the next version of the company, the next vision of where you're going, that's how you attract everybody to work for you, right? That's how you attract money to come in. That's how you attract customers and suppliers and vendors. That's how you stand out from everybody else is when you, like your company today, like an accounting firm in 4 cities, like really pass the Cheetos. Like it's so boring, right? But where are you going to be in 3 years, right? What's it feel like? How are you moving from being this old style accounting firm to more modern, like, right? And like, so you got 18 employees. Great. So what's the big change? You go to 19, like so fun. I got 100 members. We're going to have 110. Like, there's nothing about today that's exciting for my business or your business or anybody else's. But if we describe it in the future, then it gets exciting. And then everybody wants to be a part of helping to make that happen. If you attract people like a magnet attracts, right? What else does a magnet do? It has to repel, okay? A magnet has to repel. So your vivid vision for your company has to push people away. I want people to be very, very clear. If you're less than 5 million, don't bother applying. You don't belong here, right? If you're a big corporate COO, don't bother applying. I don't want the COO from Ford here. They wouldn't fit, right? You got to be kind of that entrepreneurial, right? 5 million to 500 million. That's the zone, right? And no CEOs are allowed. Like, it's so crystal clear in my vivid vision that entrepreneurs are not allowed to come here. They wouldn't fit. They wouldn't be shutting up right now. So when you're really clear and you push the wrong people away, you start attracting the right people in like that magnetic force. And then all of a sudden, everyone's in alignment, right? Your customers, your suppliers, your employees, your potential employees, your stakeholders, your banker, your lawyer. I've had banks fund companies because the vivid vision was so clear that the banker said, I finally understand what you're doing, right? Because they can read the 5 pages instead of having to listen to the entrepreneur or read the financials or read the plan. I've had customers land multi-million-dollar accounts because the customer was so excited about what the company was going to become versus what they were. You know, think about when Starbucks came out. Do you know what what company makes the lids for Starbucks cups? Solo. I was so excited about it because I asked Greg Johnson, who was my mentor at Starbucks, I said, how did you he goes, we just told them in the early days how amazing we were going to be. And they were so excited to be a part of us that they came in at a deal that was like bad for them. But now it's like, it's made their company, right? Like, imagine being the company that sells Starbucks cup lids, like you're retired. So that for me is the first kind of starting point. And then for me, the corners of the jigsaw puzzle come afterwards. And the first corner for me is the core purpose. Okay, so the vision of what we're building is the front of the jigsaw puzzle. The next corner of the jigsaw puzzle is your core purpose. And Simon Sinek kind of created that we didn't create the idea, but he really popularized it with his first TED Talk. This is how little Simon and I knew of what TED was back then. Is I did my TEDx talk on raising kids as entrepreneurs. He did his TEDx talk in Puget Sound on the Start With Why. We didn't know. It was so poorly videoed because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. He went on to become the number 3 TED Talk of all time. So he helped me write my core purpose, my why. So my core purpose is to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. So why would I run a CO Alliance? It is pointless to teach entrepreneurs how to run their company because they're incompetent. I will tell all of them that. I'm trying to put the skills into the hands of the people that will actually grow the company for them, but this is consistent with my core purpose. So for me, my core purpose to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen allows me to say yes to doing the right speaking events. I did 3 speaking events this week. 3. All of them to groups of entrepreneurs. It allows me to say yes to coaching, to know which companies to coach. All 5 of my books help entrepreneurs and their entrepreneurial companies. My CO Alliance helps entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. My Second in Command podcast helps entrepreneurial companies make their dreams happen. And it allows me to say no to certain things as well. I say no to some books. I say no to some contracts. I say no to some speaking events. I'm very, very consistent with exactly what we're building, right? So think about in your business, to become that magnetic force, you have to be aligned with your core purpose. And then for me, the second corner of the jigsaw puzzle are core values. So single words like these are confusing, right? And you can't just put your core values up on a wall. Like Enron had their core values on a plaque in their lobby, and they had their core values on their marketing material, but they didn't live their core values. One of the best examples for me of core values was College Pro Painters. Started in 1971, and Greg Clark wrote these 3 core values down that he lived by and he wanted his company to live by. Deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do. What's amazing about them is they're very clear. They don't need any explanation. There's only 3, so they're easy to remember. There's not 10. He would be willing to fire people who broke any of those, right? It's not like have more fun. You're not going to fire someone if they have more fun or if they're not innovative. But if somebody doesn't have pride in all they do, of course you're going to fire them because they're doing work. Or if somebody's not respecting people. So an example of how you live core values, I was sitting in an office in 1989 with College Pro, and my VP, Kevin Carter, was he was a very brash, he was a hick. He was a real brash hick. And he was being really rude to one of the women in the office, Julie. And he was just making all these sexist comments. And at one point I turned to him in the middle of the rest of the company, and I said, Kevin, how about respect the individual? And he looked at me, he was big, and he looked at me and he just glared. He goes, don't ever call me on the core values. And he stormed out of the office. I'm like, I am fired. Like it is all over right now. And the rest of the group was like, whoa, like you just called Kevin out on that. And the rest kind of felt it too. And then 10 minutes later, Kevin calls me in. Camster, get in here. I'm like, I'm so dead. So I walk into his office, close the door, and he goes, don't ever call me on the core values. And I don't know what came over me. And I went, then don't break them. And he just looked at me and he's like, fine. Kevin and I are friends today because of that interaction. And I don't think I ever saw Kevin Carter break a core value after that. So when you're willing to call a supervisor on it, or when you can praise people on it, or when you can live for them, or if you can fire people for breaking them, man, business gets so simple. But if you have core values anywhere written, and you have people in your company that are breaking them today, or your CEO is breaking them, then you're not living them, and it's shaking the foundation of your company. So an example of like deliver what you promise, or respect the individual pride in all you do. If a CEO shows up in the office and they're on their cell phone in meetings checking email, they're not living this core value because they're not being respectful of the others. They're certainly not having pride in either doing their email or sitting in the meeting because you can't do both. So call them out, right? Call them out privately, but when you hold people back to this, that's when it goes through brick walls. I like only ever having 5 core values. These are my sister's core values for her company. Deliver what you promise, get done, treat every member like your best friend, be a Tigger, live and breathe sport and social club, take pride in all you do. Now, I've also always said that all of your core values should be easy to understand and they should be limited to 5. So she has 6. Guess which core value she got rid of? Yeah, why did she get rid of be a Tigger? I don't know what Tigger means. Do you know what Tigger is? From Winnie the Pooh, but do you know what Tigger represents? Have fun. But we're not quite sure, right? We're like, I think, but if you've never read Winnie the Pooh, you wouldn't know. But for Christy, she's like, you know what? When she has to explain a core value, like, do I have to explain these to you? Where they're from? It doesn't matter where they're from or who said it or what speech. When you have to explain be a Tigger, it's clearly not clear enough. So get rid of it. And are you going to fire somebody if they're not a Tigger? Probably not, right? So that for me is how you live those. And then the fourth corner of the jigsaw puzzle that we're not going to get into is the 1-year plan that is driving you towards your goals, towards your vivid vision. But those are the corners of the jigsaw puzzle for me. So then after I go through the corners of the jigsaw puzzle, then I look at people. So Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, talked about getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and everybody in the right seats. This is the bus. This is the bus that this group called the Merry Pranksters drove around the United States in the mid-'60s tripping on acid. The bus was called Further. This is Ken Kesey, who wrote the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in the movie. This is back in the era when acid was legal, but it's written up in a book called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. The reason I tell you this was the Merry Pranksters' mantra was you're either on the bus or off the bus. And what they meant by that was you're either part of the scene or you're not. You either get it or you don't. You either buy into the vivid vision or you don't. You either buy into the core values. Like you don't want people who are just partially in. You also want to turn people away. And what they understood was if they had the wrong people on the bus, it would ruin the trip. Literally. So if you have the negative, grumpy people in your company, they're ruining your company culture. It's every grandmotherism is true. You know, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. You get one bad employee in your company, that negative energy takes up people's time. So you have to get rid of these people. I have not found a company yet that works hard enough to get rid of the wrong people fast enough. We talk about recruiting and interviewing and hiring and onboarding and training and taking care of people. Well, how about getting rid of the toxic people? If I say you've got a cancerous tumor inside of your company, why are they still there after 3 months, 4 months, 5 months? So Jim Collins was so right. He doesn't teach us how to do it. So I'll walk you through a little bit of that. First thing I learned from recruiting was in terms of getting the right people into your company, I learned this from my grandfather. Both my grandfathers were CEOs and owned their own companies. One of them owned a hunting and fishing resort up in northern Canada. So we were out duck hunting one morning and we put these decoys out into the water. They're like plastic and wood ducks that would attract the other ducks into the blind. And then, I don't know, like 2 miles away, 5:30 in the morning, I see these ducks flying. I'm like, Grandpa, get out the duck call. It's got this little thing that like you make a duck noise and the ducks will fly towards you and then they see the other ducks and they come into your blind, right? So the decoys attract other ducks into your blind. And I'm like, first off, he goes, those are the wrong ducks. I'm like, what do you mean they're the wrong ducks? Like, they're 2 miles away. How do you know they're the wrong ducks? He goes, they're in the wrong formation and their wings are flapping the wrong way and they're too low to the water. Those are fish ducks. The ones that we're looking for are going to be higher up and they'll fly slightly differently and their wings flap differently. I'm like, how do you know this? He said, I'm very clear on what I'm looking for and I can tell from a mile away. And when you're looking for employees, You have to be so clear on the behavioral traits that you're looking for that you can tell from a mile away if you have the right potential people coming to work for you. So at College Pro Painters, when we had to go out and recruit 800 franchisees every year, there's most franchisors on the planet have never done that. I would almost garner to say that almost no franchisors have done it every single year for 10, 15 years, right? So 800 franchisees. So what did we look for? We had 3 core traits and 2 core what we called abilities. The 3 core traits were leadership, attainment, and tenacity. The 2 abilities were fundamental ability and instrumental ability. Each of those 5 terms had a definition that all of us at the company could recite word for word. Tenacity was the dog-like work ethic to get over, under, or around any obstacle put in one's path. Now, if you asked any of the GMs or VPs at College Pro what tenacity is, they would tell you that definition word for word. I've been gone from the company for 27 years, and I still recite it word for word. Not only did I know the definition for those, I could give you 5 questions I would ask in every interview to search for those 5 things to just get the interview started. You know, fundamental ability was the ability to regulate your emotions or to handle short-term pain for long-term gain. That was our definition. My dad got pulled over for a cop when he was 23 years old and punched him. For real. 3 months after getting married, my mom had to go down to the police station to bail my dad out. You think my dad has the ability to regulate his emotions? Not so much. So if you know what you're looking for, you know how to define it, then you know how to interview against it. Then if 3 of us are interviewing the same person, I can sit down with Guy and I go, hey Guy, how would you rate this person on tenacity? So we were doing this at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. One of our 3 core traits for franchisees at Got Junk was tenacity. And one of the VPs interviewing this candidate said he was a 5 out of 5 on tenacity. I'm like, there's no way. So what we do for every trait that we're interviewing for is we rate people kind of on a bell curve. So we say that 40% of the candidates can be given a 3 out of 5. 20% of the candidates can be given a 2 out of 5 or a 4 out of 5. And 10% of the candidates will be given a 1 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5, right? Adds up to 100. So for leadership, attainment, and tenacity, for someone to go from the first round to the second round, they had to get at least a 4 or a 5. I only wanted the people in the top 30% of candidates, okay? So if somebody came in for an interview and they were rated a 3 out of 5 on leadership, did they go to the second round? No. And to go to the second round, you had to be able to say why they're there. So that's how we were looking. We knew what we were looking for. We knew how to find them. The other thing I learned from duck hunting was when you put decoys out to attract ducks into the blind, what are the decoys we have in our company today? What are you doing to attract people into your company? Employee referrals, benefits, employee reviews, right, on Glassdoor and Indeed, your company website, your leadership team page, your job postings. Your job postings should all be written by the head of the functional area and then have a copywriter rewrite the job posting to make it pop off the page. Treat it like a sales letter. That's one. Make sure that your leadership team photos have no one wearing a shirt and tie because you don't look important, you look impotent. Make sure that you're wearing a first date dress code. Think about if Richard Branson owned your company, what would it feel like? If Steve Jobs was alive and he owned your company, what would it feel like? Think about your physical office space. Are you attracting people in or are you pushing them away? So think about what decoys you're using to attract. The best employees are not on Indeed and Craigslist looking for a job. The best employees have jobs and they're poached. It's because the best employees have a job. I have people coming to me all the time, like every 3 days. Is there anyone in your COO Alliance that I could hire to do this? I'm like, dude, I can't recruit from this group. I can't. Like, it's just so not cool. But they know because this is a group that's game on. They're working on their skills, right? So you guys are on their radar right now. So every time a patient leaves their location, the patient gets a text message 10 minutes later. It says, if you were happy with your result, please leave us a Google review. You could almost shift now for the next year for Yelp reviews, because your Google reviews, you got like 2,000 reviews. You're good. You win. Like get Yelp up as well and then go for RateMD as well. And then it's game over. Like if you really pushed hard for RateMD and for Yelp, it's game over. It's the same for Indeed and for Glassdoor. And you could make a list of the 120, 150 really, really happy people, right? Put them all in a spreadsheet, go to the first 5 and say, hey, can you go on Glassdoor this week and leave us a review? And then by Friday, go back and see if they left you a review. 3 will. Go back to the other 2 and go, hey, you probably forgot to leave us a review. Can you go on Glassdoor and leave the review? Ask them 3 times. If they haven't after 3 times, take them for coffee and find out why they haven't done it because they're not as happy as you think. Once you've done that group of 5, go to the next group of 5. Hey, can you go to Glassdoor and leave us a review? You'll get all 120 people on Glassdoor, you win. it's recruiting game over for the next 10 years. Because as soon as some negative review goes up, they've already been buried by all the preemptive 120 that you got there. If you go on Amazon and look up coconut oil and look up the #1 selling coconut oil on Amazon, it's a client of mine, Viva Naturals. They have 15,000 reviews for their coconut oil. You don't even bother looking at the others. Like, oh, they have 3,000 versus I'll pay. Well, it's got to be good. No, it's not actually as good as you think it is. They did a lot of marketing to get all those reviews, because once they have those reviews, it's like a satellite in orbit. It just stays there. That's the kind of rifle-based approach. Is you need to use some executive recruiting firms as well. I've got 4 executive recruiting firms that I refer out all the time. If you're looking for mid to senior level people, I have 2. If you're looking for salespeople, I've got a great one. If you're looking for a virtual assistant, I've got a fantastic one. If you're looking for great people and you want executive search firms, send me a note. I'll introduce you, and they can really help you. Bury them with good ones. That's all you can do. Yeah, don't worry about, and find out why, and get rid of them, like get them out of the company. But if they're gone, yeah, just bury them with good ones. Most people don't really read the reviews anyway. They just look at the rating. So as long as you really push hard on the rating to get it up, you're not going to, right? So I use a group interview process to find out if the people have the right cultural fit. I'll bring in 6 to 8 people in person or over Zoom. I interview them for only 2 things, cultural fit and leadership. I don't really care if they have the skills, because as Steve Jobs used to say, if I don't see the twinkle in their eyes, I don't care if they have the skills. I just want to know if they're vibrating. So we send everyone the Vivid Vision and say, please read this Vivid Vision and send me a video, 2 to 3 minute video of why you want to work here and how you can help us make this come true. You can tell when I send Jesse the Vivid Vision, dude, his video is hysterical. He was so excited. I'm like, I hope this guy has the skills, because he's like the right guy, right? He's vibrating. Now you do a group interview against others and you can kind of see them against the others. And it's so obvious who the 2 strongest cultural fit people are that I'm like, I want to hang with you guys. So then you bring the cultural fit people in and you see if they have the skills. There was this saying years ago of hire for attitude, train for skill. I disagree. Hire for attitude and skill both. Okay, we can't afford this day and age. And the reason it's hard to find the people who have the skill is they're working somewhere else. So you got to have strong Google reviews, strong Indeed reviews, strong Glassdoor reviews to attract them. And then you got to have the right decoys. 5 weeks paid vacation, including your sick time, is a decoy. Free healthcare is a decoy. But then your leadership team bios. If your leadership team bios start with like, I went to Dartmouth, who cares? Like, I don't care that you went to Cornell. Actually, I do, because Cornell's a cool school. But I want to know like what your passions are and what your hobbies are. And at the very bottom of your bio, say, oh, and I went to Cornell. I want everyone's leadership team bio to read more like your Tinder profile than a government bio. Because the Tinder profile is what's going to attract me to learn more about you. And then after I read yours, I'll read yours, and I'll read yours. I'll read everybody's bios. But I don't really care where you went to school or what your degree's in. Really, especially if you're in accounting, right, or law, right? But I want to know why you wear tie-dyed fluorescent acid shoes. That's cool. Like, I would have a picture of you with those up. One of my clients, Jason Hennessy, Jason's bio, they're in the SEO space. Jason said, Jason has been interested in search engine optimization since grade school. In 1987, he first started getting excited about SEO. There was no internet in 1987. And he's totally with people by putting it there. He does it on purpose. His bio is completely nonsense, because we don't read anybody's bios anyway, right? So when you're interviewing, you really want to start with a job description and a scorecard. This is what a typical job description might look like. Let's say we're hiring a swimmer. So the job description for everybody online says, we're looking for a swimmer who's fast and strong, they're experienced with all strokes, they're competitive and team player. That's a typical job description wording. But it's not measurable, because I'll tell you, I know how to swim fast, and I know I'm competitive, and I'm a team player, and I've done all 4 strokes, hire me. But a scorecard version is more like this, right? I want to hire someone who won Olympic gold across 3 to 4 strokes. I want to hire someone who broke world records. I want to hire someone who won in individual and team events. Whoa, that's super different. Now, do you want to hire someone who knows how to do this, or someone who's done it? Do I want to hire someone who has done their MBA, or someone who has managed teams and managed P&Ls and managed accounting budgets? Because I know how to win an Olympic gold. Swim fast, faster than everybody. That's how you do it. And I know how to break a world record, swim faster than everybody's ever swum. And I even know how, well, and I've never done that, but I know how to do that. So hire me. Because if you hire based on a job description, you end up with this guy. If you hire someone who knows how to do it, you end up with this guy as well. He knows how to do all these things. But if you hire someone who's done it before, you end up with that guy. So where we're going here is you hire for attitude and skill. You hire for cultural fit and skill. And you hire for somebody who's done it before, not someone who just knows how to do it. And then every time you bring somebody into your company, raise the bar. Every time you bring in a new employee, raise the skill, raise this. If you got 8 people in marketing, the next person you bring in has to be better than at least 4. So then what would Jack do? Think about Jack Welch, arguably in his day, one of the top CEOs on the planet. He would draw this diagram on a piece of paper. So you rate them based on this matrix. Low results at the bottom, high results at the top, low core values to the left, high core values to the right. And every 6 months, you write the names of all of your employees in one of these 4 boxes, and you write the names of everyone who reports to your team in one of these 4 boxes. So what would Jack do if one of his employees or one of his direct reports employees ended up in this box? Low results, low core values. Fire them. Simple, right? Now, if it's on a scale of 1 through 10, what would you do if you had like 9s or 10s in results and 9s and 10s in core values? What would you do with those people? Promote them maybe? Handcuff them. You handcuff them to your company for at least 5 years, and you find something that's different for each of them. Results-only work environment, more flex time, more responsibility, less responsibility, more vacation time, profit sharing, phantom stocks. I want more visibility with the press. I want you to spin off a company, let me run it. I want to buy a company, let me run that one. I want more flex time. I want more vacation time. You can't have a program to keep people. You have to understand what is it that satisfies that person so much that they're just going to stay. Well, what are the 1 or 2 things that matter most that will keep that person with my company? What do you do if somebody's down here with a low results, high core values? You make sure they're in the right seat. You don't train them if they're on the wrong seat. You get them in the right seat, and then you train them to make sure they have the skills. And then if they're up in this box with the high results, what do you do with these people? Super high results, low core values fit. You have to fire them too. The cost of the wrong person is 15 times their annual salary. If you have a person that shouldn't be in the company because of low results or low core values fit, it's costing you 15 times what you're paying them. A $60,000 person is a $900,000 a year expense because of the negativity, the problems, the A player that quits because they can't work with the C anymore. How bad would that be, right? If one of your best people quits because they can no longer work with Bob, and you're like, but I was going to fire Bob. It's too late. I've already quit. You got to get those people out of the company. The next stage is communication. If you think about kind of building culture, this is actually the leadership team photo for the VP of engineering for the #1 company to work for in the UK. Her bio reads like a Tinder profile. It's like, hi, my name's Elaine. I love shoes. I travel all over the world. I've got shoes for tango, shoes for hiking, shoes for kayaking. And if you want to talk to me about where my shoes are taking me next, it's probably one of these 3 countries, but drop me a note. Here's my information. Oh, and I have my undergraduate degree at Dartmouth and my PhD in engineering from Stanford. But you don't care about that, nor do I. And you're right. And then you read Bob's bio, and then you read Kevin's bio. And for communication for us, we had a daily huddle at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Our daily huddle started when I was about this size, and every kind of week we would work on making a little bit better. And every single day for the last 19 years, they've run daily huddle at 1-800-GOT-JUNK using kind of the dashboards and our metrics and, keeping people on that same page. There's systems around that. It's in meeting suck, but it's a huge communication tool is your daily huddles. We talked about the dream manager and the 101 dream goals. When your employees know that you actually care and when you're really curious about them, not like you know their birthday and you know their dog's name, but when you know their fears and their insecurities and their passions and their relationship with their parents and their spouse and, what's going on with their kids, that's the stuff that really matters. Tom Peters in Search of Excellence talked about management by walking around. The time that you spend with your employees, show me what you're working on. Let me take a look at your data with you and the results. What's broken? Like sit down with them and get them to show you the stuff they're working in versus like, how's it going? Right? Really engaging and really getting to know them and really getting to see them. And when employees come to you with a problem, don't shoot the messenger. Right? God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Our job's to use them in that ratio. Listen, they just want to be heard. They know that you may not take their idea and run with it, but they just want to share the idea with you. You celebrate everything inside of the company. Celebrate everything. Not like every time you set 3 goals for the next week, say thank you for 3 things that we just got accomplished. If you're setting 3 more goals for this month, celebrate 3 goals that just got accomplished last month. You got to constantly be driving towards the horizon, but you also have to show people how far we've just come by looking in the rearview mirror. And entrepreneurs are always guilty of this. They're always driving forward. Like, everybody knows I love them. No, they don't actually. And your spouse would divorce you if you didn't keep telling her that you loved her. So you got to keep telling the employees, not just that you love them, but what is it about them that you love? Or what is it about them you're happy with? What is it about the work that they're doing that you're happy? And then we talked a little bit about customers. Customers are not number one. The employees are number one. Our job, or the CEO's job, and you need to keep reminding them of this, their job as CEO is to be the chief energizing officer. But that's how I visualize the company. That's how I think of the company. But that's how I see the business pulling together, and culture kind of emerges from that.